Let's talk about some real food on a real budget. And I'm not talking any budget, I'm talking low budget, but high on the yummy. It's impossible, right? Well, stick around. Let's take a look and see if it is. Every week, we put out a brand new, never seen before meal plan. We do it at Walmart every week and we pick a different location. And this week, we are doing 6 dinners for under $60. Here are the dinners we're going to make. So you'll notice we have a good amount of variety. It's not all rice and beans. Yes, we use rice, but I don't even think we use beans this week. Eating on a low budget does not have to be boring. So let's take a look at the grocery list. Here is our grocery list. This week we did prices from the Super Walmart near Crossville, Tennessee. Now I'm going to put 2 links down below. The first one goes directly to my Walmart grocery list. So you can go click on that link. It'll pull up walmart.com. It'll show you my whole list, everything I picked out. You can change the zip code to your area so it'll be your local store and you can see what the prices come out to. Now, before you hit, add to cart, I want you to take this list and go check your pantry, your fridge, your freezer, because odds are good you may have some of these items. Our total came out to 57.53 for everything possible you will need. The only thing we assume that you have to do this meal plan is whatever your preferred cooking oil is, and then whatever your favorite seasonings. That's it. Everything else on the is included in this list. So you might already have some things like taco seasoning, salsa, maybe have mayonnaise, soy sauce. You can check all those off. Your total just got a whole lot less. The second link goes to my website where you can download a copy completely free. It's a PDF. It'll include the shopping list and all of the recipes. That my site also has all of the pictures I'm going to show you. So if you want to look at them closer, totally fine. Now, let's get into the recipes. Before we get into the recipes, I forgot I've started adding these make ahead tips because in reality, sometimes we just don't have that much time during the week, but we may have a few hours on the weekend or a day off to try to prep ahead. So I have 4 suggestions or tips of what you can do to go ahead and save you time for the nights that you're going to make the meals. The first one, we're going to use a whole head of cabbage, but it's going to be split over 2 recipes. We can go ahead, wash, and cut this cabbage to where half of it, we're just going to like slice it up however you like it for coleslaw. And then you're going to just chop the other half. Go ahead and put each one in a bag. And then on the night of, it's ready to go. No chopping required. The second thing is we're going to use a 2 pack of these pork tenderloins. Now, one of them we will use whole, so you don't have to do anything to that one. But the other one, we are going to slice it into strips, just long strips, however you want to cut it. So you can go ahead and do that, ahead of time. Now, I'm a huge fan now of making white rice in the crock pot. You can make a ton of rice. You can freeze it. You can keep it in the fridge. It's just so versatile. And literally, you don't have to babysit it or anything. It takes about 2 hours and boom, you've got a crap ton of rice made. And that's going to easily save you anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. So this week, you can go ahead and make a bunch of rice, and what we'll do is on the night that we're going to have a tomato garlic rice, you can just mix the salsa and the garlic in with your cooked rice and then put it in a pan and heat it up. Boom, easy. Another thing that we're going to make is meatballs this week. You can easily pre-make the meatballs. You can go ahead and put them in your fridge or put them in the freezer for later, and then boom, you can just bake them. That's going to save you a ton of time. Now, even if you don't do any pre-prep, all of these recipes are fairly simple, and I am confident that you could get these done in less than 45 minutes. So if you've got 45 minutes, you can do this. The first one, we're going to do pork tenderloin street tacos with slaw and that tomato garlic rice that I told you about. Really, this is just so simple. We're going to take that pork tenderloin, we're going to cut it into strips, we're going to saute it with some taco seasoning, and then we're going to make just a very simple coleslaw. I feel like I'm definitely in my coleslaw era right now, which is totally fine. So There's so many ways you can do this, and we're going to do just a very basic, simple one that's going to use mayonnaise and lime juice. Now, I am not a fan of super soupy coleslaw, so I've got the measurements for the mayo and the lime juice very small. If you like your coleslaw to have more of dressing to it, you like it more wet, just double this up, not a big deal. Now, I've got lime juice, but honestly, if you don't want to use lime juice, you can use pickle juice, you can use vinegar, you can use any acid that you like. Now, we're going to use just some regular tortillas. So you're going to have your pork, you're going to top it with your coleslaw, and then you're going to have a side of rice. Super simple, super easy. And also, there should be a good amount. So if you don't finish it all for dinner, you could easily have some lunches here. This next recipe for sticky soy garlic chicken drumsticks is so great because there's so many options. Now, the sauce is made with soy sauce, a sweetener, an acid, and then garlic and whatever favorite seasonings you like. We're going to be using brown sugar and lemon juice, but you could easily switch that up to be honey or vinegar. Really, there's so many ways you can do this. And then basically, we're going to bake these in the oven. Now, you kind of coat them in sauce, and then about halfway through, you flip them. If you want, you can coat them in sauce again. Totally up to you. It just depends on how strong you want that sauce to be. Then we're going to serve it with some simple white rice and broccoli. Of course, you can always switch out the vegetables. Maybe you don't want to do broccoli. Maybe you want to do one of those stir-fry blends. Totally fine, easy swaps here. This third dish is one of my favorites because it's so classic and it's so simple. And once again, there's so many ways that you can swap this up. We're going to do bratwurst for our bratwurst cabbage skillet. Now, you may say that these aren't bratwurst, that they're smoked sausage. Totally fine. You could even use like Italian sausage, but what you would want to do is if your sausage is uncooked, go ahead and cook it when it's in its link form. When you pull it aside, then slice it. Because if you try to slice it while it's uncooked, it's just going to make a mess. You could also do this with like ground sausage, even ground meat, like ground turkey, ground pork, ground beef, any of those will work. But basically, at the end of it, you're going to end up with sauteed onions, cabbage, a little bit of mustard for flavor, and your sausage. And we're going to serve this over egg noodles. Now, we tend to add a little butter to the noodles, so they're kind of more like a traditional butter noodles, but you don't have to. You could just do regular egg noodles. There's lots of fun here, and this is a great dish if you have any veggies hanging out that are in your fridge that are looking a little sad. You could throw in some carrots, you could throw in some mushrooms, you could throw in some peppers. So many options here, and either which way you make it, it still ends up fabulous. The next dinner is going to be some zesty barbecue meatballs with smashed potatoes and sauteed spinach. Now, I will say that I prefer to do the smashed potatoes with the smaller potatoes, either the small yellow ones or the small red ones. But if you already have a ton of like russet or baking potatoes, you can do the same thing, but I would cut them in half so that way it doesn't take as long to boil them until they're tender. It's a little bit easier to smash them, but they will tend to fall apart here a little bit. That's okay because we're going to bake them in the oven and they get a little crispy and it's so fine. Now, for the meatballs, typically you see meatballs made with breadcrumbs and then egg. Instead of egg, we're going to use mustard. It is such an easy substitute for an egg. And honestly, it doesn't matter what kind of mustard you use because you're very rarely, if ever, going to actually taste the mustard in there. It just acts as a binder to keep your meatballs from falling apart. Now, we're going to end up coating these meatballs in barbecue sauce. But you know what? If you're not a barbecue sauce fan, you could easily switch this out for like a pasta or a marinara sauce. Totally fine. Now, for the spinach, we're going to use about 2 cups. These bags say that they have 7 cups of spinach. So if 2 cups doesn't seem like much because we are going to wilt it, you could easily double that up to 4 cups and not have a problem. I like to go ahead and saute them in butter. We have a head of garlic this week, so go ahead and throw a couple minced garlic cloves in there, whatever seasoning you like. This is just a super simple, easy veggie dish that goes well with the meatballs and the smashed potatoes. Now, this next one is one of those dishes that you typically see around the fall time because in fall time you think apples. But apples are actually coming kind of into season right now. You see a lot of them on sale, especially when you're looking at the 3-pound bags. We only need 2 apples, but if you like apples, this would be a great week to go ahead and buy a 3-pound bag. Make sure you save 2 of them for this dish, and then you have apples to snack on. I've been seeing apples for the 3-pound bags, usually anywhere from like $3 to $4. Not bad at all. For this one, it is in the crock pot. We're going to line the bottom of the crock pot with the apple and the onion that's been sliced up. We are going to season our pork loin by rubbing it with some mustard and your favorite seasonings and just plopping it right on top. Now, I do like to add a little bit of water or a little bit of broth, whichever one you want to do. But the trick is to pour it around the pork loin because you don't want to splash all that seasoning off the pork loin that you just seasoned. You're going to put the lid on. You're going to let this go. I typically cook on high for about 3 to 4 hours, but if you want to cook on low, you can do it for about 6, 7 hours. Now, once this is done and it's closer to dinner time, this pork, if you leave it the way it is, you can easily slice it to where it's just going to be nice slices. Or if you wanted to, you could shred it. I prefer in instances like this just to do kind of hunks or slices. But if you prefer shredded, that's totally fine, up to you. But closer to dinner time, we're just going to make some very basic mashed potatoes and we're going to use some butter and seasonings. Now, if you have milk or heavy cream or sour cream or even unflavored yogurt, those are all great options to make creamier potatoes, but use what you have. And then we'll do a side of green beans on here. And once again, we have garlic, we have butter. You could easily saute these in a pan, add some extra flavors there. Totally easy. My kids actually prefer just the microwave method where it has no seasoning whatsoever, which, it's simple, it's easy, and that's the way they eat them. So I'm not going to mess with that too much. The last dish this week is going to be Mississippi chicken and noodle bowls. I want you to think of this as a very upgraded chicken noodle soup, almost like a Mississippi style ramen, if you will. Let me explain. We're going to take our drumsticks. We're going to throw them in a crock pot. We're going to season them with ranch seasoning and brown gravy mix or au jus mix. You don't have to use the whole pack. I don't. I just eyeball it and use what I think because that kind of keeps the sodium down a little bit. We're going to top it with some sliced butter, and then you can throw in some pepperoncinis or banana peppers, a little bit of the juice, and we're going to let that cook. Once it gets closer to dinner time, we are going to go ahead and boil the other half of the bag of egg noodles. We're going to drain it and set that aside. We're going to take all the drumsticks out of the crock pot and we're going to remove the meat and kind of shred up that chicken. It's all going to be dark meat and it's just so flavorful. Now, in a skillet, we are going to saute in oil some of our sliced carrots, and then we're going to add our spinach until it's completely wilted. Then, to assemble our bowls, we're going to grab a bowl. We are going to go ahead and place the noodles in the bowl. We're going to top it with that shredded chicken, the sauteed spinach, and carrots. And then we're going to use the juice from the crock pot. Now, mine usually has a good amount of juice. If yours doesn't, you can always like beef it up a little bit, if you will, by adding some water or adding some chicken broth. But that flavor is amazing. I just use a ladle and then I pour that liquid over the top. And so now it's like a very thick chicken noodle soup, but oh my gosh, it is so good. And this is one of those that you could easily switch up the veggies. Say you're not a fan of spinach. Say you want to use up some Swiss chard or any other types of greens. Totally fine. You could do that. You could skip the greens completely. You could do something else. You could do like a stir fry veggie. There's so many options here. You could throw in some zucchini and squash, whatever you like. This is just a super fun take on Mississippi chicken, and it's a fun noodle bowl that even my kids like to eat. Now, if you're over on Facebook, you'll see that every dinner that I serve to my kids and myself always has a fruit option. And I hear all the time that fruit is just too expensive. Well, I'm not going to disagree with that, but I will say that if you're buying fruits that are in season and you're keeping an eye out for the best prices, you can easily afford to add fruit to your meals. Now, here are the low cost fruit options at Walmart. I will say that typically, especially in my area, Walmart does not always have the cheapest cost on fruit. Sometimes they do, like for these kiwis, that's a great price. For the watermelon, great price. But when it comes to some of the berries and the apples and the oranges, I notice that sometimes my other local stores have these items as loss leaders or big sale to get you in the door. So always take a look at your local stores. Even if you don't want to shop around at a bunch of places, you could easily get the majority of your items from Walmart and then just go stop in and grab some fruit. That could save you a ton of money. And as a bonus, my kids love having fruit at dinner. It makes them know that at least one thing on the plate they're going to love. But as an added bonus, most adults do not eat enough fruits and vegetables. So this is an easy way to have like a monkey see moment. If your kids see you eating fruits and vegetables, they are more likely to eat fruits and vegetables. So give it a try. Now, if you've made it all the way to this point, I just want to say thank you for hanging out with us this week. I really appreciate your support. And as a bonus, if you are new here, definitely go to our website, sign up for our email newsletter. We send it out once a week and it's going to notify you of new menus, new videos, and it also does kind of a recap of all the new content we put out this week. You can also grab our free workbook that I put down below, all about meal planning, gives you tons of templates to work with. And there's just so much information out there. If you don't already follow us on Facebook, definitely go click over to Facebook and give us a follow because we put a lot of information out there that we're just not able to share here. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and I will see you next week. Bye.